So, are multinational corporations heroes or villains? It's a huge question, right? One of the biggest debates in our globalized world, and it is packed with tension. Okay, let's dive right in.
Just take a look at this headline. Is China the world's new colonial power? Whoa. This actually ran in a major newspaper, and it cuts right to the heart of the matter, doesn't it? It came up because of all this massive Chinese corporate investment in Africa, and it just perfectly captures the deep suspicion, the really high stakes we're talking about with these global giants.
It really feels like there are two completely different ways to look at this. You've got one side saying, hey, these guys are the good guys. They're productive instruments of a liberal economic order, bringing in money, technology, and making everything more efficient. But then you've got the other side saying, no way. They're instruments of capitalist domination, exploiting workers and crushing local communities. The crazy part? The one thing both sides absolutely agree on is that these companies, for better or for worse, are the main engine driving globalization. Okay, so before we can really get into their impact, we've got to be clear on what we're actually talking about. What is a multinational corporation anyway? So here's the official definition, but the really important word here, the key word, is controls. See, an MNC isn't just a company that sells its products in other countries. Nope. It's a company that actually owns and manages production facilities. We're talking factories, plants in at least two different countries. That direct control across borders, that's what changes the entire game. And to really get a sense of how massive they've become, you just have to look at the numbers. It's pretty staggering. Let's rewind the clock to 1969. Back then, there were about 7,300 of these parent MNCs in the entire world. Okay, 7,300. Now, let's jump forward about 2 decades to 1988. That number more than doubles. We're at 18,500 now. That's some pretty impressive growth, right? But hold on, because what happens next is the real story. In the next 20 years, up to 2010, the number just explodes. It skyrockets past 100,000. I mean, that is not just growth. That's a complete reshaping of the global economy, and at a speed that's kind of hard to wrap your head around. And today, their power is just immense. Think about this for a second. MNCs account for half of all global exports, a third of the world's entire GDP, and a quarter of total global employment. You see what I'm getting at? They're not just players in the global economy anymore. In a lot of ways, they are the global economy. So this all leads to a pretty basic economic question. Why? Why go through all the trouble and expense of owning and managing a factory in a whole other country? Why not just do business on the open market? I mean, seriously, think about it. A company like the Gap, they don't own the factories in Bangladesh that make their clothes. They just sign contracts with local companies there. So why does a company like Volkswagen decide to actually build and own its own plant in Mexico? What's the logic behind that?
Well, it turns out there's a kind of two-part formula that explains it. You need a combination of pull factors that attract a company to a foreign country and push factors that pretty much make owning the operation the only smart way to do it.
Okay, so the pull, that's the first ingredient. It's all about locational advantages. This means a country has something specific that a company wants. It could be valuable natural resources, like oil. It could be access to a giant consumer market, like the US. Or it could just be about efficiencies, like lower production costs that make it a really attractive place to set up shop. But just being an attractive place isn't enough. You need the push factor too. And this comes from what economists call market imperfections. Think of an intangible asset, like a secret recipe. You can't just sell that recipe to some other company, because they might steal it. So you have to own the factory yourself. Or think about a specific asset, like a custom-made part that only works for your product. If you depend on an outside supplier for that, they have all the power. So you build your own plant to make it yourself. In both cases, the risk is too high to just contract it out, which pushes you to own the whole thing. And this is where it all comes together in a really brilliant way. Take a look at this smile curve. It shows that the most profitable parts of a business are at the beginning, like research and design, and at the end, like marketing and sales. And what's at the very bottom of the smile, the least profitable part? The actual manufacturing and assembly. So what do these MNCs do? They keep the high-value stuff in high-income countries, and they offshore the low-value assembly work to low-income countries. It's a powerful strategy to maximize profit on a global scale. So now that we kind of get the economics behind it, we can go back to our big question. What does this all mean for the countries that host these massive corporations? Well, it creates a huge dilemma for them.
It's this really stark trade-off. On one hand, these countries are hoping for a big injection of foreign money, for new technology and new skills to be shared, and for a doorway into global markets. But the risks are huge. Local businesses can get wiped out, the profits often get sent back home, and that promised transfer of skills might not ever really happen, all while workers could face exploitation. And we have to be clear, these costs are not just theoretical ideas. They have a tragic human price. The suicides at Foxconn in China, a major supplier for some of the biggest tech companies in the world. The catastrophic collapse of the Rana Plaza garment factory in Bangladesh that killed more than 1,000 people. These are just brutal reminders of the harm that can happen when global production prioritizes profit above all else. So where does that leave us? Well, it leaves us smack in the middle of a story that's still being written. It's this continuous, ongoing power struggle between global capital and national sovereignty. Ultimately, the dynamic between a host country and an MNC is just one long, intense negotiation. Countries try to bargain for more jobs, better wages, and real investment in their communities. Meanwhile, the corporations leverage their ability to just pack up and move to bargain for lower taxes and fewer regulations. It is a permanent tug-of-war where the rules of the entire global economy get decided. And this all leaves us with a critical question for the 21st century. As these corporations keep growing, sometimes becoming wealthier than entire nations, who's truly in the driver's seat? Who really holds the ultimate power to shape our collective future? Is it the corporations or is it the countries?